What's going on, everyone? DeAndrug7 here, and sorry for no face cam. Look, I know you guys want to see my pretty face, but it's 1:30 in the morning, and I simply just don't have time to set up my equipment and stuff like that. So I'm just gonna get this done as soon as possible and edit and upload it and sleep. So, over the past 20 years of Pokemon, we've silently gone from 15 types in Gen 1 to the 18 types that we currently have. As expected, most people prefer certain types over others. For example, I like electric, water, and fire types the most, but I absolutely despise the psychic type. It's no secret that we all have our favorite types, but what about our favorite Pokemon from each type? That's right, in today's video, we're going to be discussing my favorite Pokemon of every type. This is the task that I've taken on this week, listing each type along with my favorite Pokemon from them. As always, I have to lay down a few ground rules. Now, I try to at least add a Pokemon from at least one Pokemon from each and every generation. So I hope I didn't really look over the Pokemon that I chose. So hopefully I have a Pokemon from I hope I have at least one Pokemon from each and every generation, because I'm gonna be screwed. I'm only going to be discussing one Pokemon for each type. So what I mean by that is, I'm only doing one Pokemon, for dual type Pokemon, I'm only going to be discussing one type for them. So for example, while Cloyster is a water and ice type, I might say that it will be my favorite Pokemon for the water typing, but I'm going to choose another Pokemon for the ice typing since I already have Cloyster as the water typing. So, another rule is that this is obviously going to be an extremely biased list. So if you don't see any of your favorite Pokemon on here, then I'm sorry. Or if you see a Pokemon that you absolutely hate, well, I'm sorry, but my opinion's more important than yours, buddy. Anyways, let's get on with the list. Now let's start off with my favorite grass type, Chestnut. I love Chestnut a lot. I know that Chestnut doesn't receive a lot of love from many people, but he is honestly my favorite starter from Generation 6. When X and Y were originally coming out back in 2013, everyone was hating on him because he got long legs and arms and saying he doesn't follow the theme, but if you think about it, he's a fighting type. Almost all fighting types have long arms or legs. That's kind of the point, isn't it? You can't fight without them. And as far as the armor thing goes, he's a hedgehog with armor since the very start. Chespin has a big helmet. Quilladin, contrary to common belief, is not actually fat. It's just wearing almost all armor, and Chestnut is covered in armor as well. Chestnut is the epitome of brutality, and I even like the deviation from the standard green equals grass type. It brings something unique to the table. For the fire typing, we have Typhlosion. Typhlosion is my second favorite Pokemon. This is the very first Pokemon I ever fell in love with. He looks fast and powerful. He looks like he could tear you apart. He's based on a honey badger, and let me tell you something, those animals are pretty badass. I also enjoy the rivalry he has with Feraligatr. No offense to Meganium, but Typhlosion and Feraligatr always looked like the two that should fight each other. Just like how everyone always views Charizard and Blastoise as rivals. And Typhlosion having a type disadvantage and being considerably smaller make him the underdog. Most importantly though, I've always related to the Typhlosion line. Cyndaquil is said to be easily scared and timid, and that was me when I was a little kid. And seeing Cyndaquil go from that to the powerful and confident Typhlosion can give a 9-year-old kid hope that maybe one day I can be strong like my Typhlosion. My favorite Pokemon of the water type is Inteleon. It has actual finger guns. How can people hate that? And to the people who say it's too humanoid, come on. That's a really stupid reason to hate a Pokemon. I mean, we've had humanoid Pokemon literally since the start, way back in Pokemon Red and Green, or Red and Blue if you were in America. At least the starters don't just turn bigger upon evolution. There's more thought in the designs than in the first generation of starters. My favorite Pokemon of the normal type is Ursaring. Ursaring is an awesome Pokemon. It has a massive attack stat of 130, Swords Dance, and access to a whole range of physical moves, meaning it can rip open even the most durable of tanks to shreds with some ease. Plus, it has the Guts ability. When inflicted with a status condition, practically nothing can tolerate it. I love its design and personality too. Bears have always been one of my favorite animals in real life, and Ursaring is awesome in that it looks big and intimidating without being too much. My favorite electric type Pokemon and my favorite Pokemon of all time is, surprise surprise, Pikachu. Now before you guys start giving me dislikes and start calling me a Pokemon poser or whatever in the comments, hear me out. If Pokemon ever existed in the real world, I'd personally would rather have Pikachu as my partner rather than any other Pokemon, simply because, well, he's the OG. Pikachu's the mascot. Pikachu's always been the mascot, and for good reason too. He's the perfect mix of cute for the girls and badass for the boys. And at this point, he's just so iconic that it's a no-brainer for me. Favorite Pokemon of the psychic type is Wobbuffet. Wobbuffet is one of my favorite Pokemon ever, and I have never used him on any team in any game whatsoever. My love for Wobbuffet is based mostly on its appearance in the anime, in which he belongs to Jessie of Team Rocket and has remained a go-to member of her team since his arrival. I love Wobbuffet simply because of how gloriously weird he is. His penchant for popping out of the Pokeball and shouting Wobbuffet at inappropriate moments. What makes him so great though is that he's incredibly overpowered in the anime. His ability to reflect attacks back at opponents makes him basically invincible, but due to his trainer's incompetence, he's always unable to turn this into an advantage. Everything about Wobbuffet is endearingly strange, from his design with his always closed eyes, to the adorable salute he gives when he appears. Wobbuffet always made me laugh as a kid when I watched the anime, and I still find him absolutely hilarious today. My favorite Pokemon of the fighting type is Hawlucha. I don't think I've ever put a Pokemon on my team that doesn't evolve at some point, since that's one of my favorite things to do in the games, but I just loved watching him do that flying press move too much to pass up. My favorite Pokemon of the rock type is Lycanroc, specifically Dusk form Lycanroc. The reason I love this guy is because I just love its color scheme, being a warm orange with traditional brown claws, which make the two colors match each other, And the flashy green eyes and white fur make the green flash look a lot like itself. My favorite Pokemon of the ground type is Rhyperior. Now, ever since I was a little kid, I loved Rhyperior ever since it appeared in the Diamond and Pearl anime. But after seeing a bunch of other PokeTubers videos discussing their least favorite Pokemon and stuff like that, I found out that a lot of people hate Rhyperior. They usually classify it with Licky Licky as the worst Gen 4 evolution. Is there something I'm missing? I love this Pokemon. I mean, look at it! It shoots Geodudes from its palms! I mean, the only main gripe I had with it was that it's a trading Pokemon. And, you know, I simply always hated the whole trading component. I just wish I could obtain them via trading with an in-game character. My favorite Pokemon of the flying type is Corviknight. It has a very simplistic design, which is that of a raven or crow, but it's not over-exaggerated, just a clean design. You can tell it's stylized with armor too, not just any colored armor though, but a sleek, dark purple type of armor. This plays into its good typing of flying in steel. Its eyes at first glance look glowing red, and they're inside, you know, these black semicircles. So this gives it the appearance of a Dark Knight archetype, fitting for its knight design. It also has a strong presence as, you know, it's a dark brooding type of Pokemon. That's a good look for a strong bird. It's like a Braviary mixed with a Skarmory with a pinch of darkness added to it. And its name is simple and badass. And the knight part hammers home what it's designed to be. It also has a feathered beard mane. It's honestly, Corviknight is just a great Pokemon, and it's honestly one of my favorites of this current generation. I'm honestly, well, when it was first revealed in one of the Nintendo Directs, I knew he had to be a part of my future team for Sword and Shield, and I normally don't plan out my teams until all of the Pokemon are revealed, but I made an exception for this badass. My favorite Pokemon of the bug type is Escavalier. Escavalier has always been one of my favorite Pokemon from Generation 5. Sure, in general it's outclassed by better Pokemon like Heracross and Scizor, but it has some cool gear to play with. It's also got a rocking design and an awesome name. Huge base attack and being generally bulkier make it, in my opinion, a better choice user. Unless you want revenge killing rather than destroying anything that switches in. My favorite poison type is Venusaur. As one of the original 3 starters, everybody knows about Venusaur. However, Venusaur has had somewhat humbler origins than its counterparts. Of course, Gen 6 put a stop to that by nerfing the weather-inducing abilities, so it seems like Venusaur's moment in the sun would come to an abrupt end. However, Gen 6 gave Venusaur 2 very important gifts that more than make up for this. The first was the introduction of fairy types, which Venusaur can counter without much trouble thanks to its poison typing. Its Mega Evolution is fantastic, so it became a staple in Gen 6. However, standard Venusaur, while not outright terrible, is still a rather average Pokemon when not using its Mega Evolution. That said, unlike a handful of other Pokemon, Venusaur's not a total wash without its Mega Evolution. Still though, when it comes to using the plant dinosaur hybrid, you're usually better off with the Mega Evolution. Halfway through this video, I just realized that there is no Gen 3 Pokemon in here. My favorite Pokemon of the Dark type is Grimmsnarl. I love Grimmsnarl. He's a bit weird looking, but his hair for muscles and animations showing that in action are just awesome. My favorite Pokemon of the Ghost type is Mismagius. Mismagius is really cool. An excellent aspect of Mismagius is its design. Not only is it awesome to look at and admire, but it can also be seen as either a witch or a wizard. It's a pretty nice gender-neutral design that I think helps Mismagius become all the more appealing to Pokemon fans of all ages. My favorite Ice-type Pokemon is Cloyster. I don't know why, but this is literally my only favorite Ice-type Pokemon. Something about that evil smirk amuses me. I always have to have it on my Kanto team, and I think it's a pretty good Pokemon even though it lacks special defense. My favorite Steel-type Pokemon is Melmetal. Honestly though, I like Melmetal's design way more than that of its pre-evolution Meltan. Don't get me wrong, even though I love Melmetal and its pre-evolution equally, Meltan looks cheap and overly simple, especially with that red tail thingy on its back. Melmetal's design isn't that creative either, but it looks way better and more solid. And in my opinion, the one thing that makes Meltan and Melmetal stand out to me the most is the fact that they are the first Pokemon that almost didn't look like Pokemon to me. Originally, I was going to put Altaria here, so there's our Gen 3 Pokemon, but sadly, there's a Dragon-type Pokemon that I like way more than Altaria, and that is Naganadel. I really hate that pronunciation, it's disgusting. Naganadel is amazing and has some of the best coverage of all Ultra Beasts. Naganadel is a powerful wall-breaking Pokemon. It has a strong move pool, including access to Nasty Plot and solid typing in Dragon and Poison. Naganadel also packs strong offensive stats to make use of Beast Boost's incredible offensive capabilities. However, all these have made it so Naganadel is at home in Ubers. Well, not in Gen 8 Ubers, because Naganadel's not in Gen 8. But before, in Gen 7, it was in Ubers. Despite being in the realm of the strongest Pokemon in the game, in the Gen 7 games that is, Naganadel still holds onto its ability to break threats and still pull off snowball sweeps, but it needs to be played carefully. And also, it just has a badass design. I mean, look at that thing. It's out of this world. Last but not least, my favorite Pokemon of the Fairy type is Florges. With the addition of Fairy types, many existing Pokemon were retyped to be Fairy types, while several new Fairy types were created as well. Among those Fairy types was none other than Florges, who many expected to be a Grass and Fairy type Pokemon by virtue of its appearance. but it wasn't. And instead, it ended up being a pure fairy type. This is not necessarily a bad thing either, as fairy type is still arguably one of the better typings in the game. Typing aside, Florges is very good at what it does. In addition, it has trouble playing in the big leagues due to competition from fairy types such as Sylveon and Clefable, especially when you consider that both of Florges' abilities are pretty much useless. That said, in formats where Clefable and Sylveon aren't available, Florges stands tall as the dominant fairy. Alright, that's gonna do it for today's video, my favorite Pokemon of every type. Now, if you guys enjoyed the video and you guys have your own list of what your favorite Pokemon are of each and every type, leave a like and comment down below. What are your favorite Pokemon of each and every type? If you guys don't agree and you guys didn't enjoy the video, leave a dislike and tell me why you disagree with this list in the comments down below. Also, follow my social links, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. Links to those in the description down below. And also support my channel through Patreon if you want. It's completely optional. You don't have to, but it would be very, very, very generous of you guys if you did. And also subscribe to DeAndreHawk7, where you can get even more Pokemon content like this almost every single day. Well, not every single day, but every other day. And I'll see you guys next time. Until then, Turtle Army, which I'm going to change into something else sooner or later.